Hello.
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 Okay. Okay. Hopefully, everything's working good. I know we had audio issues last time. But I think I got that all sorted out this time. Okay, so how's everyone doing?
Doing all right. Pretty good. Can't complain. What about you?
I'm good. Just had an eye appointment today, so
You should also get a hotness appointment because you're causing global warming.
Okay, man.
okay, thanks, buddy. Okay, so today's show, we're talking about the three typically more supportive classes. And I know we're going through these classes very one-dimensionally, where we're putting them into like pigeonholed roles, which is definitely not the case. You can mix and match these classes however you want, play them however you want, but these are like, for the show's geared towards newer players. So, at least from my point of view, a lot of new players comes from the more like the video game hobby, which is much more cut and dry roles in certain games. So we're explaining these in a way that makes it easier for, at least the way we interpret it, people to understand. But especially with all these classes that we're going to be talking about today, just because you pick one of these classes does not mean you're pigeonholed into healing and supporting. You can take any of these classes are all very, very versatile. They can become like some of the tankiest classes in the game, deal the most damage in the game, all depending on how you build and your playstyle. So, without further ado, let's jump into the first class. The Bard, which begins on page 51 of the Player's Handbook. Okay. So, right away, like the backstory behind the Bard is they're a musician, a minstrel, storytellers, and whatnot. They fall into an adventure through being the gathering and spreading of information and legends. They're very much the network in the world. So with the Bard, you want dexterity and charisma to be your two highest stats. You do get any three skills of choice. So right away, the Bard being as versatile as it is, which is probably the most versatile class in the game, you can pick whatever skills you want. Now, we are getting into our this is the first full caster that we're talking about, so we'll touch on some of the casting mechanics in the game. But at level 1, you get your spell casting and you get your bardic inspiration. So, spell casting for full casters, which means you start with spell casting. You get cantrips. These are little spells that you can cast as much as you want. The Bard doesn't really get that many damaging spells. They do get Vicious Mockery, which is a little bit of damage, and it gives enemies disadvantage on their weapon attacks. And that's a signature spell of the Bard. No other class gets it, minus some subclasses. The Bard spellcasting is a spell's known, which means every level you have of X amount of spells you can know. And you can choose from those only those spells to cast. Whenever you gain a level in the class, you can choose one spell from the Bard spell list you know, and replace it with another spell from the Bard spell list. So whenever you level up is when you can change your spells. When we get into the Cleric, it's a different sort of spell casting. Then Bardic Inspiration. You can give someone, at this point, a d6 to add to any ability check, saving throw, or attack roll. And then as you level up, it gets to higher and higher. Building off how versatile the class is, you get Jack of all trades, which gives you any skills that you're not proficient in, you could add half your proficiency bonus to.
Ooh.
So, you remember when we were last week when we were talking about the Ranger, Andre?
Mm-hmm.
How I said it's sort of like a Jack of all trades, master of none?
Yeah.
The Bard is more so that, except the Bard's actually a master of none.
Gotcha.
It's more of a master of everything. If that makes sense. We're not master, but like...
Very well-rounded.
It's very well-rounded.
Not insane at something.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's good at the things it's good at, and it's not bad. It's okay at the things that it's not extremely good at.
Okay.
You get Song of Rest, which you play a song and you could heal more during a short rest. It very rarely comes up, but when it does, it's nice. Level 3, you can pick your Bard College, which we'll get into that in a moment. We'll get into that after we finish going over the rest of the class. Like the Rogue, you do get Expertise, so you could double your proficiency in skills you're proficient in. And you also get that at level 10. Level 4, ability score improvement. Level 5, you get Font of Inspiration. This lets you regain all of your expended uses of Bardic Inspiration when you finish a short or long rest. So, the Bardic Inspiration for the Bard is bonus action. If you don't have anything else to do, you might as well throw that on someone. Just so it gives them a little bit of extra boost. You probably will be constantly reminding your teammates about it, which is sort of a running gag in the community. You get Counter Charm at level 6.
Counter Charm, is that what you said?
Counter Charm.
Okay.
So, you basically perform, as an action, you start a performance that lasts until the end of your next turn. During that time, you and any friendly creatures within 30 feet have advantage against saving throws against being frightened or charmed. The creature must be able to hear you to gain this benefit. Performance ends early if you're incapacitated, silence, or if you fall if you voluntarily choose to end it. Again, this doesn't come up much, but when it does, it's helpful. So this is knowing. You will have to know about your enemies and if they can charm for this. Then we jump all the way to level 10 for our next ability, which is probably the Bard's strongest ability. Magical Secrets would let you, at levels 10, 14, and 18, you can pick 2 spells from any class, and you can use them. This is where the Bard's versatility really shines, as they can literally take any spell in the game and be able to use it. Then at level 20 you get Superior Inspiration, which would almost never come up, which is when you roll initiative and you have no more Bardic Inspiration, you regain 1 use. So it's honestly, it's a pretty bad ability, but it might come up during a long game. So do you guys have any questions about the Bard so far, like in general?
Yeah, I was going through some of the other spells, and I was reading on Song of Rest.
Mm-hmm.
Can you like give it an exact scenario? Like, could you almost do like a walkthrough of how that would work?
Okay, so let's say you guys are traveling down a path and you just finished a really tough fight, but it's like midday, you can't really stop traveling yet, or else like you'll be stuck traveling at night, which is a lot more dangerous.
Right.
So you'll decide to take like a short lunch break. So during that lunch break, as everyone's using their hit dice to heal up, the Bard can be like, I'm going to use my Song of Rest, and I'm going to give everyone else an extra 1d6 hit points to their healing. Or if, say, no one else in your party has hit dice left, you can provide a little bit of extra healing. It's meant to top people off during a short rest.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
Pretty understandable to me.
Okay, so I will say the Bards probably... The Bard and the Sorcerer are probably the 2 hardest classes for a new player to wrap their head around. Because the Bard does not have a clear direction that you want to go. And if you want to play a more supportive character, you're probably going Cleric anyways, as a new player.
It just seems like most of the spells sounded pretty straightforward. There's just so many. That's kind of my biggest thing, is you have to remember a lot about the class.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as the spells go, all the classes have a lot of spells, especially the full caster ones, which is every class we're going to be talking about for the next 2 weeks. Yes, there's a lot of spells. However, with the Bard and all the spells known casters, you only have to focus on a few at a time. And there's a few staples you take first anyways, or you would want to take first. So for Bard, I would recommend you go Vicious Mockery and probably Healing Word as your 2 go-to spells. And that can get you through most encounters. So, as far as the subclasses go, in the player's handbook, there's the College of Lore and the College of Valor. So the Lore College is more about, like, it's much more of a castery type of character. They get their own personal magical secrets at level 6. So at level 6 they gain 2 more spells from any class. So this bard is someone that has a lot of utility baked into their spells. The other interesting thing about this class is that you get Peerless Skill. When you make an ability check, you can expend 1 use of Bardic Inspiration. You can roll the Bardic Inspiration die and add it to the number rolled to your ability check. You can choose to do this after you roll for the ability check, but before the DM tells you if to succeed or fail. So, an example of this would be you roll a 10 for, like, say, Stealth, and you don't know if that's going to cut it. You can use this ability to give yourself inspiration after you rolled. The term most thrown around about this subclass is toolbox. You have a lot of tools for a lot of different things, but you're not hyper-focused into one role.
Hmm. But yeah, it seems like a lot of like what we're talking about so far is like these guys or these classes rather, they although they might be considered supportive, it's just that like they're not locked into just supporting, and that they're very viable at doing a lot of things, but not as great as the classes that would typically be like really good at those.
Like Lore Bard, for example, who's more of a caster character, won't do as much damage as a wizard through spells, but they can still do quite a bit of damage. Like, you play a bard to fit the missing piece in your party.
Yeah,
like
it's very flexible.
A lot of times I see people play bards when they're not making the party, like everyone's making characters on their own. Some people pick a bard, so no matter what, they can fill a role in the party. Because the bard has a lot of options. That's very overwhelming for new players.
Yeah.
Which, again, that's why I said if you want to play a supportive character as a new player, I recommend Cleric. You can play Bard, you can play Druid, but those classes have a little bit more of a learning curve than Cleric. Well, some clerics, that is. Because, oh boy, we'll get into that. College of Valor. This is your battle bard, as far as the player handbook goes. There is a College of Blades, which is much more, think stereotypical suave swordsman. Like, oh man, what's an example? It's hard to say an example because the rogue will cover it, most of it. But anyways, we're getting off track. College of Valor. When you take this subclass, you get proficiency in medium armor, shields, and martial weapons. So already you're much more of a fightier bard, opposed to the caster bard. So this will take your bard more closer to being a fighter. You also get combat inspiration at level 3. So you can inspire others in battle. A creature that has bardic inspiration die from you can roll the die and add the number rolled to a weapon's damage roll it just made. So this is, you're up in the front with your fighter buddy and you're giving them bardic inspiration so they can do more damage. Alternatively, when an attack roll is made against the creature, it can use this reaction to roll the bardic inspiration die and add the number to its AC, so armor class, against the attack. After seeing the roll, but before knowing whether it hits or misses. So the wording there is a little bit rough, but let's say you put this on to the fighter, and then the DM rolls 23 to hit, the fighter only has 20 AC. They can roll the dice, roll your bardic inspiration to add the AC. Their AC and make them harder to hit for that one attack.
And like, what would the cooldown on that be?
Once per turn, bonus action. As long as you put your bardic inspiration on someone, they can do this if you're a Valor Bard. It's a very helpful ability. Chances are most times people are going to use it for the weapon damage. Especially if you're with someone that can crit easy, like a champion fighter. They can add this dice to the damage, and that dice will be doubled because of the crit. Level 6, opposed to level 5 for the fighter, you get extra attack. So you get your second attack a level after the fighter. And the barbarian and the paladin. But this will keep you in line with the martial capabilities of some classes. But again, you're not going to be as good as them.
Gotcha.
But you're still going to be able to. Then level 14 you get Battle Magic. When you use your action to cast a Bard spell, you can make one weapon attack as a bonus action. So whenever you cast a spell, you can make a weapon attack as bonus action. This can combo very nicely with stuff like if you choose to take Green Flame Blade, a part of your magical secrets. That spell is an action to cast, and part of it you can make a weapon attack. This will let you make an extra one, sort of deal. You can cast, let's say, Fireball on a big group of enemies, and then you can make a weapon attack against the thing that's close to you. This comes in a little bit late, in my opinion. But there's no other room to fit it earlier. It essentially makes it so you don't feel bad casting a spell as your action and losing out on both attacks. Okay. So do you guys have any questions about the Bard before we move on?
I think you answered all of mine.
Yeah, I'm more so like just learning about it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I'm not too familiar.
At any point you guys have questions, just let me know and I'll be happy to answer. So, the Cleric. Oh boy. The Cleric has a lot of stuff. you, as the cleric, you pick your subclass at level 1. So, before we get into anything, we should probably go over the subclasses, because depending on your subclass can change what starting equipment you can even take. So, the subclass has, or the cleric has, a lot of subclasses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 subclasses in the main book. And a lot of them are pretty niche, but helpful. So, I'm just going to give a brief description of both, as I don't have experience in playing all these. So, we start with the knowledge domain. This is, like the Bard, your lore master. Name of the show. I said it. Then...
You must be so proud of that.
Oh, I am so proud. So, you get spells like Command, Identify. This is all like the leader-esque. You're the leader, and you're the brains of the group. When you a part of the class, you gain 2 languages, and you can get 2 more proficiencies in the knowledge-based skills or intelligence-based skills. Life domain. This is your healer character. You get spells like Bless and Cure Wounds, Revivify, which lets you revive an ally. A part of the class, you get proficiency with heavy armor, and whenever you heal someone, they get an additional 2 hit points plus the spell level. So at level 3, you're healing whatever spell you choose to heal, plus if you cast a level 1 spell, it would be plus 3 HP. You cast a level 2 spell, when you're level 3, you get level 2 spells. So if you cast a second level healing spell, that spell would heal an additional 4. As you get higher into levels, eventually you'll unlock sort of like an AoE heal. And I think that's a 5th level spell, so everyone heals an additional 7. On top of the dice. So this is the life domain is sort of the recommended for new players cleric. Because you get the amount of healing you do, especially in the early levels. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, Evan, last game, when you got hit and you were down to how much? 9?
About that. I don't remember exactly, but yeah.
So, if someone was playing a life cleric, they could have easily healed you probably back up to 20.
Nice.
So that's the life cleric. They do get a lot of other abilities that are helpful, but like I said, there's 7 subclasses and we haven't even started going over the base class abilities because there's some fun stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
So next is the light domain. This is this is one of the damage clerics in the game. So get Burning Hands and Fairy Fire at level 1 for your spells. So right away you have AoE fire damage, and you have a support ability that lets your allies have advantage to hit anything you put Fairy Fire on. You get spells like Scorching Ray, Fireball, Wall of Fire, Flame Strike. You get a lot of fire-based spells, light-based spells. So this falls under the more damage-esque. It's really one of the 3 damage clerics in the game. Nature. You get spells like Animal Friendship, Speak with Animals, Bark Skin. You get proficiency with Heavy Armor, and then you could choose either Animal Handling, Nature, or Survival. This falls in line with what the Ranger and Druid do, except you're more martial than the Ranger, and you're more spellcaster. No, you're more martial than the Druid, more spellcastery than the Ranger. It's definitely a very nature theme, which is fitting. But you are still a support. This is one of the more supportive classes, or subclasses for the cleric. Tempest is the lightning counterpart to the light cleric. So this is you're going to be doing a lot of lightning damage. But unlike the light cleric, you get proficiency with heavy armor and martial weapons. So this is a fightier cleric, but you do get specialty lightning abilities. At a point in the level up process, whenever you deal lightning damage, you can choose to do max. So let's say you get a sword that has extra lightning damage. You hit with it, you can just choose to do max lightning damage. So before we get into the last two, do you guys have any questions about the clerics so far?
I got one.
Yep.
So in the kind of description, there was like shields, like things you can carry along. Is that like a potion, or is that like actual like a physical shield?
That's a good question.
For clerics, it's just kind of in their inventory, I guess, in the beginning. Yeah.
It is a physical shield.
So can you give it to others?
Yeah, but it's a straight up shield. So yeah, you can hand it off to others. However, you do get shielding spells that you can place on other people.
Can it like block like an incoming spell then? Or would it do like reduced damage?
There is a feat called Shield Master, which whenever you're forced to take a dexterity saving throw, it's sort of, you can put your shield up in the way to block it, and you have whatever your shield, the bonus your shield gives you, you add to the roll, and then you take half damage anyways.
Okay, got it.
Like, a very supportive class. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. So this would be like, I guess the tanky support.
This is yeah. Depending on which subclass you go, because some of them give you access to heavy armor while others don't. So in a way, yes, this is your tanky support. But then you also can be a squishy support with stuff like the light cleric or the knowledge cleric. But if you go like life cleric, tempest cleric, war cleric, you're tankier. Because of your armor and AC.
Gotcha.
So does a cleric fit most comps then, just because it has the ability to be tanky?
You can literally take cleric in any comp you want, and you will have a role, and you could be able to fit anywhere.
So it's kind of like Bard in that way.
It's like Bard, except Bard you always have the ability to morph into a different role. Once you pick your subclass, you're kind of held into that role.
Right. So yeah. So what you're saying is,
go ahead.
Like Bard is more adaptable throughout the game, whereas Cleric you kind of need to lock in at the beginning based on what you think you're gonna need.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like, no matter which cleric you go, you'll always have support and healing. At that point, you just gotta choose, do I want to be more spell damage? Do I want to be more, way more supportive? Do I want to be tankier? Do I want to have a good melee output? It all depends on what you need. So, for example, let's take your party. If Andre was playing the cleric, he would probably go life cleric. Because Andre's character is the only character that can know healing spells.
So Sox's character can't?
Sox's character will not be able to learn healing spells.
Ooh.
So if Sox wanted to be... If Sox's character was a... Sox being Catherine, for those who don't know. If Catherine's character was a cleric, it would probably be either Tempest or Light. If Evan's character was a cleric, his cleric would be the war cleric, if that makes sense. So, like, since Sox is playing a hard, damage-based caster, she would be the cleric that would best suit that playstyle would be Tempest or Light. For you, Andre, it's kind of hard to say with the Ranger, but I would probably either go life or nature. And then for Evan, who's playing a warrior, it's easy, you just go the war cleric. It's in the name.
Gotcha.
And then Zach's kind of tricky. I would probably say for more sneaky character, you do want to go trickster, which I'll get to in a second. So, do you guys have any other questions?
I'm good.
Okay. What's also really helpful if you do want to play supportive character, all these classes are one right after the other. Nicely in a nice line for you. It's just unlike the barbarian, fighter, and paladin, which are all separated. So, the Trickery Domain, this is your disruption support character. You get stuff like Charm Person, Disguise Self, Blink, Dispel Magic, Dimension Door, Polymorph, Modify Memory. So you get a lot of utility from this class. However, this is not one I recommend for new players, as it has a lot of stuff you need to manage, in my opinion. You get, at level 1, you get advantage with Dexterity Stealth checks, and you can use your action to touch a willing creature other than yourself to give advantage to that creature. So basically, you touch someone, and they have advantage on stealth. Simple. Where it gets complicated is Channel Divinity, which we'll get to in a second, as all the clerics have their unique Channel Divinity on top of a base one. But you make a double of yourself, and then you have to manage both. The part that I don't recommend for this class, the subclass for new players, is because it doesn't have a defined role. Its role is niche, and it's not too good at filling that niche, in my opinion. But it can help others that do fill that niche. So this is paired really good with rogues, for example. Now, probably one of the easier ones, the War Domain. This is your warrior cleric, your war priest.
Mm-hmm.
You get spells like Shield of Faith, Magic Weapon, Spiritual Weapon, Flame Strike, and Hold Monster. Level 1, you get proficiency with martial and weapons and heavy armor. So you're going more to that warrior character. Level 1, you can whenever you make a weapon attack, you can use your bonus action to make another one. And clerics don't normally have 2 weapons to do this anyways. So level 1, you do get 2 full-on attacks. So if you have a great sword or a maul, you get 2 attacks with that at level 1, which is ludicrous. You do get a fun ability where at level 2, whenever you make an attack roll, you can add plus 10 to the roll before you know if it hits or not. So that's basically a guaranteed hit. Like, not much has more of an AC over 20. So, like, you roll a 5. Once you add your modifiers, you're at a 10, you add this, you're hitting a 20 at level 2. Level 6, you can give that to an ally. So this is very, very well paired with fighters, barbarians and paladins. In a way, you're kind of a minor paladin. As far as the roles you fill as a tanky, fighty, healing-esque character, just paladin's a little bit more fighty and less healy than you. You're more healy and less fighty than the paladin. So, any questions about any of the subclasses?
Nope. So,
back when I was talking about the Bard, remember when I said it's a spells known caster?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
All that means is you have a set number of spells you can know, and when you level up, that's when you change them. The Cleric is a spells prepared caster, which means they automatically know all the spells in the Cleric spell list, but during a long rest, they can prepare a certain amount, and those are the ones that they can cast for the day. It's a minor difference, but it does come up, as the Cleric can change their spells way more frequently than the spell's known caster or a Bard. And when you get to higher levels, this detail really comes through, as the Bard won't be able to change their spells for longer than the Cleric. So the Cleric is every night they can gain 12, swap out any number of spells and add any more. The Bard's stuck until they level up. Level 2, you get Channel Divinity. One use of it, which is a special ability that's... all the cleric subclasses have a unique one, but it's a sort of once per rest ability that you can use. On default, all the clerics get Turn Undead, which will make it so undead will run away from you naturally. At level 4, you get ability score improvement. Level 5 becomes your Turn Undead. You gain the choice of making it Destroy Undead, which will automatically kill any undead below a certain challenge rating. Then they get a big ability at level 10 and 20 called Divine Intervention. Basically, you have to roll underneath your level on a D100, and if you do, your god that you worship just comes down and intervenes in whatever you're doing. So let's say you're playing a war cleric. You can say, "Oh, God of War, smite my foes." You roll. If you get under 10, depending on how the DM wants to run it, it could be your god comes down and slaughters all of your enemies. It's
That's nuts.
literally the strongest ability in the game by far. And at level At level 20, it happens once. Like, it can just happen. You don't need to roll. It just happens. But the cooldown for this ability is 1 week, I believe.
What level is this unlocked at originally?
You get originally at level 10.
10.
So you have a 10% chance at level 1 to make it work. But it is an action, I believe.
So if you fail, just nothing happens? It
If
just
you
counts as your
fail,
action?
Nothing happens.
Does it go on cooldown because of that? Like, even if it fails?
Even if it fails.
Right, okay.
Oh, if it succeeds, it's 7 days. Otherwise, you can use it again when you finish a long rest. Then level 20 is just... Level 20, you can call for intervention. Your call for intervention exceeds automatically, no roll required. It's literally the strongest thing in the game. By far. With, like, nothing can beat the power of a god. Just coming down and slapping the shit out of your enemies.
Yep.
So, that pretty much wraps up the cleric. So if you guys have any questions about the cleric as a whole, we'll answer those and then we'll move on to the druid.
Makes me just want to be a cleric just so I can use that last ability.
Keep in mind, that is level 10, which...
We're level 2.
You're level 2.
Yeah.
And I've been playing the game for probably like 5 years now, and I never had a campaign last past level or get to level 10.
Is that just because players wipe, or the thing just kind of fades off?
Sometimes life gets in the way. Other times, yeah, it's just TPKs, total party kills. But good times. Always good times. Okay, the Druid. These are very nature-based, usually casters. However, there's ability that makes them very powerful melee threats. These are also a spell-prepared caster.
Gotcha.
So, level 1, you know the Druidic secret language. So you can spot hidden messages from other druids. Think of this as, I believe it's called hobo markings.
You say hobo markings?
Yeah. So, okay. I don't know if that's 100% what it's called. But it's basically like, with homeless people, they will, let's say there's a spot that's, okay, there's gang activity here. They would leave a marking. Let's say it's like a yellow, let's say it's a triangle on the side of a building.
Okay.
What most people won't know is, most people look at that and see it's graffiti, think of it graffiti, or won't even notice it because it's like carved in. But when a homeless person will see that, they'll go, "Oh, I don't want to stay here because there's gang activity," sort of deal. It's that, in a way.
Yeah, I just looked into it. It's called Hobo Signs.
Okay.
Began all the way in the 1880s. But yeah, your description is pretty much perfect. Like markings on a fence, opposed to building,
Yep.
etc., steering them away from trouble.
Yep. You can recognize those symbols. You also get spellcasting at level 1, full caster. At level 2 you get your subclass, which we'll go into after. Also at level 2 you get Wild Shape. This lets you turn into a beast type creature that you've seen before. So what this doesn't let you do is turn into a dragon, turn into a griffin. You can turn into like a cow, a tiger, sort of thing. But there is restrictions. So level 2, only things you can turn into are the max CR level that they can be is 1/4. And they cannot have a flying speed or a swimming speed. So an example would be the wolves you guys fought. You'll be able to turn into one of them. And you gain all their abilities that go along with it. And there is a lot of like restrictions and things you can and can't do. So the way it basically works is you can use your abilities. So, or think if it's you're concentrating on abilities, so like stuff like rage, spells, and whatnot, then you wild shape, those effects will persist. I don't think you can use them during your wild shape. Your wild shape will last the number of hit points whatever you turn into has. So if you turn into a wolf, you will have 11 hit points. And then when those hit points drop to 0, you revert back to your normal form. at whatever hit point level you were at when you went in. So there's very tanky possibilities. If you have dark vision, you lose dark vision if the creature does not have it. You can't cast spells. However, it's still a very good defensive feature, because you just get more hit points. Then you get level 4, your wild shape improves, so now you can pick creatures that can swim, and the max CR goes to 1/2. At level 8, it improves again, where you can take flying creatures, and the max CR goes up to 1. And then we jump all the way to level 18. Along the way, you get new spells, you get your Druid Circle features, and you get stat improvements. But you don't get another base Druid ability till level 18. Which, at level 18, you get Primal Magic, or Timeless Body, which causes you to age slowly for every 10 years. Your body only gains 1 year.
Huh.
And also at level 18, you can cast spells while you're wild shaped. So that restriction is lifted. Then at level 20, you can use wild shape as an unlimited number of times. So it's pretty helpful. Before we get into the subclasses, do you guys have questions about it?
Yeah, I got one again.
Yep.
The Herbalism Kit
Yep.
in the description. What kinds of purposes can you make with that?
You can. So that's you can like use it to properly gather herbs and flowers. You can use it to like mush up let's say you need something to stop a bleeding wound, but it's like to close it up, sort of. You can make a makeshift healing potion, like rub it on there.
Technically, can't like any other class just harvest berries on a tree
Yep.
though? Like, I understand.
However, like stuff like the Ranger and Druid would typically know more about that sort of thing.
Okay, so like you said, like the patching it up properly and knowing what will heal a wound type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Like, yes, any class can know that. However, majority of the other classes will need to go out of the way to acquire those skills.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's natural for the Druid. The Druids... Once we get into the subclasses, this will be more obvious, but the Druids are much more nature and wildlife. So, like, well, let's just get into the subclasses. The two subclasses are Circle of the Land and Circle of the Moon in the player's handbook. So, the Circle of the Land, this is your plants and yeah, this is definitely your plants and your grass, your trees, typical nature-y stuff. The way it works is you can pick one of 8 biomes that your character is from, and you'll get different spells based on that biome. You also learn 1 additional cantrip, and then you get natural recovery. And you can recover spell slots equal to your level. So like if you're level 2, which you would be, you can regain 2 level 1 spells or a level 2 spell, that sort of thing. And then you get, once again, spells based on the biome that you're from. And each biome has a different theme about it. The Arctic biome's much more of a disruption and definitely a disruption sort of theme going on, and also an icy theme. The coastal is a watery theme. You get Mirror Image, Misty Step, Water Breathing, Water Walking, Control Water, Freedom of Movement, Conjure Elemental, and Scrying. So stuff that's typically water themed. Desert starts off with Disruption, and then it goes to Survival, and then back to Disruption. Forest is more buffed focus, so like buffing yourself, buffing your party. Grassland is a lot of mobility based stuff. This gives you some stealthing spells. It gives you haste, which is the only way to get haste on a druid without feats and I believe other subclasses that are not in the player's handbook. And haste is a really good spell. Mountains, it's buffs and disruption. You do get the lightning bolt spell, which is very good. Swamp is disruption and damage. Underdark is disruption. So, do you guys have any questions about those? Because that's a lot of information.
Yeah, there's a lot. Maybe not like an exact question about any of the subclasses, but like, what do you think is the best and the worst of all of them?
Ooh, that's a good one. My opinion, Grassland is the strongest purely because you get the haste spell, which is you can put that onto someone. They get additional movement. They get double movement, actually. They get an additional attack. They get advantage on dexterity saving throws. You get spells like Invisibility, Insect Plague, Pass Without a Trace, Daylight. You get a lot of really useful spells. The worst one, I would probably say the worst one is Underdark. If it all depends on like where the campaign's taking place. Like if the campaign's taking place in the Underdark, obviously the Underdark is going to be like significantly more powerful. Just for those, I don't think you guys know, but and for anyone else who doesn't know, Underdark is sort of like the world beneath the surface. think can't think of a movie. Yeah, I can't think of a movie. I can't think of the name of the movie, but it's basically a group of people go spelunking. And then there's like and they're trapped in a cave, and there's like an alien monster that was been living there and starts killing them off. Whatever that movie's called, that's The Underdark. Okay, so for also for the land at level 6, you gain Land Stride. It's moving across non-magical difficult terrain, costing no extra movement. And you don't take damage from like thorns or similar hazards. You have advantage on saving throws against plants that are magically created or manipulated. At level 10, you can't be charmed or frightened by elementals or fae, and you're immune to poison and disease. At level 14, when a plant or creature makes an attack roll against you, they have to make a saving throw. On a failed save, they must choose a different target or the attack automatically misses. So this can either be very helpful or never come up depending on the campaign you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Circle of the Land. Circle of the Moon goes, it really plays off wild shape. It's more about the animals, the beasts, the wildlife in the area. So, level 2 you get Combat Wild Shape, which lets you use your Wild Shape as a bonus action. And when you transform, you can use your bonus action to use a spell slot and regain 1d8 hit points per spell level. So, also at level 2, your Wild Shape can transform you into a beast with a challenge rating as high as 1. You ignore the CR table, so you basically can always turn into something that has a CR of 1, just even though normally you would be 1/4 or 1/2. Then at level 6, that becomes your level rounded down. So at level 6, you can turn to a beast of CR2, 9 CR3, 15 CR5, that sort of thing. Level 6, when you transform, your attacks count as magical for overcoming non-magical or overcoming resistances and immunities to non-magic damage. It's helpful, it comes up a lot, so you don't have to worry about it. Level 10. You can expend 2 uses of Wild Shape at the same time to transform into an air, fire, earth, or water elemental instead of a beast. So at this point, it should be pretty obvious that you're turning into a bear and you're running at your enemies. At level 14, you get 1,000 forms, where basically you can just cast Alter Self at will. So to go into more in depth about this ability, let me pull up the spell. While I'm trying to find this spell, do you guys have any questions about the Druid?
I am good right now.
Okay. Alter Self. Okay, so there's you have 3 choices when you cast the spell. You can give yourself gills and web between the fingers, giving you a swimming speed equal to your walking speed. You can increase your size. You can transform your appearance and decide what you look like, including your hair, weight, facial features, sound of your voice, hair length, coloration, distinguishing characteristics, if any. You can make yourself appeal as a member of another race, though none of your stats change. Oh, sorry, you can't change your size. You also can't appear as a creature of a different size than you. Your basic shape stays the same if you're bipedal. You can't use the spell to become a quadruped. For instance, at any time for the duration of the spell, you can use your action to change your appearance in this way. And then your final choice is natural weapons. You can grow claws, fangs, spines, horns, or different natural weapon of your choice. Your unarmed attacks deal 1d6 bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing as appropriate to the weapon you choose. If you're proficient with unarmed strikes, the weapon is magic, and you have +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls while using it. So this is that last one, natural weapons, probably the most you're going to use it for, unless you just want to have rainbow hair for a few minutes. And those are the classes. Those are the 3 definitely supporty classes.
Seems like there's like a lot more flexibility in these classes compared to the other ones.
Mm-hmm. That's because it doesn't want players that pick these classes to be pigeonholed into supporty. And also these classes are meant to fill multiple roles at the same time. And one of those roles is healer. So the best way you can think of these classes is healer, but I also can do blank.
Right.
Now, it's hard to give sample builds for these. The best way to put it is, if you're playing a bard, pick something that gets a charisma bonus. If you're playing a druid or a cleric, pick a race that gives you a wisdom bonus. And just pick the subclass that appeals the most to you. Like, one combo, actually, a fun sample build that kind of disregards the vice I just give is, you go a blue dragonborn Tempest cleric. And then once you hit, I believe it's level 2, you can choose to make your lightning breath from the dragonborn just deal 2d6, so 12 damage total. It's a fun little build that I've personally played before and had a lot of fun with. So, do you guys have any questions about the playstyle of these classes?
I don't have a question about the playstyles. I guess I would just ask you, like, if you were to rank the 3 classes from best to worst in terms of, well, maybe just like your personal opinion of just level of enjoyment, as well as like how good they actually are or how good they can be. So like 2 different lists, possibly.
The best way I can put this is, it depends on the player. For me, like, who someone likes a little bit more roleplay in the games, Bard is number 1. So my personal list will be Bard, Cleric, Druid. Bard, they're very roleplay heavy class, and they can fit into a lot of different roleplay scenarios. A Cleric, their relationship with their god is a big back and forth roleplay part. Druid just doesn't appeal to me too much, personally. So yeah, for my personal list, it'll be Bard, Cleric, then Druid. However, for different people's playstyles, your mileage may vary. If you're more of a just want to roll dice and kill monsters, then Bard's probably your lowest, and Circle of the Moon Druid is probably your highest, or one of the Clerics is probably your highest. Like, it all depends on the player, as all 3 of these classes can like support, but you want to focus on what else they can do. So, do you have any final remarks, final questions before we wrap it up for tonight?
Interested to see what happens Sunday.
Oh yeah.
Our new stuff that we got after our shopping spree.
So, thank you for everyone that came out to watch this. If you have any sample builds, if you have any questions regarding these classes, leave a comment. We'll be sure to answer them either throughout the week or on our next show, our next Friday show, which we'll be talking about the Warlock, the Sorcerer, and the Wizard. The 3 more damagey spellcasters in the game. So, thank you for everyone coming out, and we will see you around. Take care. Bye.